am going to record this meeting, just so you guys know, for people who couldn't make it. Although we are going to be mostly answering your questions, so I don't know how helpful it will be for them. For anyone who doesn't know, my name is Lisa Eddy. I'm the Research and Education Coordinator for Virginia Sea Grant, and I manage all of our fellowship programs, including the Graduate Fellowship, which we're here to talk about today. And I'll let Jay introduce himself.
Surprise introduction. Hi, I'm Jay Clark. I'm the Communications Director for Virginia Sea Grant. Just here to help out.
All right, so for everybody, just making sure we're all in the right place. We're going to be talking about the Graduate Fellowship for Virginia Sea Grant. That's for students that are currently in their master's, PhD, or other professional program. It's funding for either 1 or 2 years at up to $40,000 a year. And at this point, the applications will be due in January, but keep in mind, another friendly reminder that you do have to give your OSP offices time to process those applications so they can sign your title page. So that it really may have to be sent into them before Christmas break. So keep those dates in mind. If you are putting in an application, please keep in touch with your sponsored programs office. We call them OSP here, but it could be different on your campus. Just keep in touch with them. Make sure you know when their deadlines are, because they will probably be different than ours. Our applications are put in through our website, which Jay will drop in the chat. And if you have any questions about that, please feel free to shoot me an email. I'll put my email in the chat moving forward. Um, and other than that, I'm really here to answer your questions today. So you can either throw a hand up, type something into the chat, however you feel comfortable getting that question across.
I have a quick question
Hmm.
about, so it says 1 to 2 years, 40,000, but is that full-time or part-time? I wasn't able to make it to the informational webinar last month. So I was just wondering if that's like full-time or part-time type fellowship, like the amount of hours you have to put in weekly.
So
What is it?
the fellowships run very similar to the NSF Graduate Fellowship, the Research Fellowship, if you're familiar with that.
Mhm.
The funds can be spent however um, you want to budget them, as far as if you want to get your tuition or stipend paid for. There's no hourly requirement. The project is going to be both the project you're already working on in your research lab with your advisor, and then also some outreach that you're going to put together to complement that project. There is no hourly component. It's
Okay,
more, I think the best way to explain it would be it means that you don't have to TA for the semesters that you're covered by the fellowship, so that
gotcha.
you can put more effort and time into the project itself and maybe add a little bit more outreach or engagement, or maybe
Okay,
something else that you were hoping to accomplish but was going to be a time burden.
gotcha. Thank you.
If you're just joining us, we're mostly taking questions today, so feel free to drop them in the chat or throw your hand up. There's a question in the chat. How Alyssa, are you asking how many fellowships will be awarded this year? Okay. Uh, all right. So we fund between 6 and 9 fellowships. Um, there is no set number. I would think we will definitely be funding at least 6 this year, and our funding is already in place for that. So those are not at threat based on the current situation or whatever the situation will be in the coming months. I would expect, again, 6 to 9 fellowships. All right. Are international students eligible as well? Yes, they are. International students are eligible for this fellowship. There are no, excuse me, I don't think there's anything different in the application process for an international student. I'm trying to think. No, there's nothing different in the app. I had to think, sorry, I was differentiating from the Canals Fellowship. There's nothing different in the application process for an international student, so long as all your paperwork is um, squared away with your university and you're in good standing with them. It's fine with us. So a couple people said they missed the informational session. I'm just going to reiterate one point that you do require a professional mentor, and I get a lot of questions about these, so I'm going to address it now for the webinar. Your professional mentor can be somebody from academia. However, it should be somebody different than your advisor or another professor that you're working with that's working on the similar in a similar field. It should be somebody that's going to add something to your project. So it can be somebody in academia. It can also be someone from an NGO, a professional company, anything like that. But it should be somebody with a different point of view that's going to add a different perspective to your fellowship project. All right, the video. The video from the September 3rd informational webinar. We will have that posted. I'm going to defer that question to Jay on when it will be posted.
As soon as I get the video. I think it's sitting in your Zoom somewhere.
Oh, okay. Sorry, that's on me. Um, I'll send that over and we'll get it posted. In the meantime, if you have any basic questions, I'm happy to answer them now as well. Um, we'll get that up in the next week.
Hey
Lincoln?
Hello,
there.
I just have a
Oh,
quick question about the duration of the fellowship. I'm
mhm.
a PhD candidate and I still have a lot of work to do, but I might not need all 2 years. I might need a year and a half, for instance. How would I approach that? It could take me 2 years. I just don't know right now.
So what we require is called a 94 budget, a 94 form. And you'll see when you kind of open that up, it has the option to fill out for 1 or 2 years. If you're going to take the 18 years, you can go ahead and just fill it out for 2 years, 18 months, I'm sorry. You can fill it out for 2 years. There's no requirement that it be split evenly between 12 months or anything like that. If you're only going to have stipend or tuition for one half of the year, then you just decrease those amounts to what you're going to need and put the money into something else. If something changes along the way and you are going to take that second 6 months as a student, then we can, if there's money left in the budget, we can redistribute it to help you cover those costs instead of travel or PD or whatever else you were going to put it into. So it can be up to 2 years. The money does not have to be spent uniformly across those 2 years. It is up to $40,000 a year, so you can't spend 80 grand in the first year and nothing in the second. But you can spend $40,000 in the first year and then $40,000 in the next 6 months of the second year. So there's some flexibility there. And if that's as you're putting your budget together, if you have any specific questions, I'm happy to help with that. Um, does that answer your question?
Yes, that's great. Just another follow-up question. Since academia jobs are really tough to come by right now in America because of various national things going on, what about having, academic opportunities overseas? I mean, using the knowledge that I gained from the Virginia Sea Grant and applying it for potential jobs overseas and using that for professional development.
I don't know. When you say jobs overseas, do you mean full time?
Full-time tenure track teaching jobs overseas because in my field in America, there's really nothing this season.
I
Yeah.
understand there. If you were to go overseas and have a full-time job, if we'd have to deal with it on a case-by-case basis for something like that, as long as you were still at your university and taking your PhD track, we could probably work with you, but it'd be up to our university's respective sponsored programs offices on how they want to read into that. Technically, for us, as long as you're pursuing your PhD or master's degree, you remain eligible, whether or not um, you have another job somewhere. We don't require fellowship participants to, like, you're allowed to have more than one fellowship as far as we're concerned, but also that might be something else with your other job that they might not be okay with you having this fellowship over here. So I'm going to say case by case basis on that, but as far as we're concerned, we can also kind of accelerate the fellowship spending, or if you don't get to the end of it, that's okay too, if something were to come up or plans were to change.
That's great. Maybe my question was a little bit different, but I learned a lot from what you just said. I'm just kind of wondering, is the fellowship more focused on creating future professionals for Virginia and working in Virginia, or for working anywhere in the United States or the
Oh.
world, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
I misunderstood. I'm sorry. We don't have any requirements or end goals for where you wind up with this fellowship as long as you wind up getting your degree from a Virginia university or college. Past
Okay.
that, we are more than happy to see you succeed in any way, including international jobs or local jobs or pretty much anywhere. We're just happy to see you guys succeed after you get out of your universities and you're done with Virginia Sea Grant here.
Okay,
Um,
great. Thank you.
so I'm going to, I think, William, did you have a question? You had jumped in.
Yeah. Hey, I was curious, like as far as professional mentors, I have like a potential professional mentor that I'm talking to who's based in Maryland, but their work is they work a lot in Virginia, and I was curious if like they're being based like they work for the Nature Conservancy in Maryland, if there was any like conflict of like would that hurt my application chances with them, I guess like not physically being based in Virginia, even though they have a lot of work that they do in Virginia.
Yeah, so mentors do not have to be in Virginia. We've had mentors from across the country. Some people are doing really niche project work, so and they're trying to bring it to Virginia, so they need to bring somebody from outside of the state. Same would apply here. If there's somebody that you think is a better fit for your project that's located in Maryland or anywhere, as long as they have the time to commit to the project and they're adding that perspective we were talking about, then it shouldn't hurt your application whatsoever. That goes for work too. I know a couple people have asked me about projects that have work in both Virginia or Maryland because they're Chesapeake Bay based. That's totally fine. As long as the project is going to be beneficial to the state of Virginia, it can have work outside of the state lines. So I just wanted to add that in as well because it's related. I'm going to go to a couple of questions from the chat. Um, I have first, I know we spoke about international students. Just to clarify, the international is totally fine. You do have to be a student, enrolled student in the state of Virginia, though. Um, and I have issues relevant to Virginia communities of, hold on, the issue be specific to Virginia. All right, so Jackie, I'm going to ask you to clarify your question a little bit. The issues don't have to be, from what I'm reading, the issue doesn't have to be specific to Virginia as long as it affects Virginia. So something like tidal flooding obviously impacts everywhere. It's not specific to Virginia, but it is obviously impacting Virginia. So that would be totally acceptable. Could you be a little more specific about the range portion of your question?
Yeah, thank you. I could speak to that. So I'm looking at my topic is focusing on drowning prevention.
Hmm.
So looking at people drowning either in lakes or oceans. So basically focusing on policies that could prevent because drowning is very much preventable. So government policies that could prevent, and that's why I was asking what what is the range of issues that could be considered, coastal maritime resources? Could something like that fall in that category?
Hmm. I think it would depend on what the project entailed. So we've had a wide variety of topics on projects, both in our fellowships, in other words, and some of them have crossed over into that community health aspect. We had one group, it wasn't a fellowship, but one group working on kind of heat islands and the impacts of climate change on health. So it's not totally foreign to cross over into that kind of community health area. However, it really depends on what the project's going to be, how that stands up to panel. Um, you have to get past that kind of whether or not it's eligible on our side. You're going to have to get past explaining how it's relevant to one of the Sea Grant focus areas. So we have coast coastal resilience, maritime education, um, and workforce development, sustainable fisheries and aquaculture, and healthy coastal ecosystems. So it it really depend on how you word it and how you link it to one of those focus areas. But if you want, you can send me an email with maybe just like a quick 5 sentence description of what you're doing, and I can let you know if I think it will match up or if there's a better way to present it that maybe um, not a better way to present it or a way to present it that it lines up with the goals and focus areas of Sea Grant.
Okay,
Hey, can I add
thank you.
something real quick?
Mhm.
There are several Sea Grant programs along the coast that do work with riptides, Jackie.
Hmm.
So if you could apply, like a safety aspect to something like riptides, that could be a way to make that relevant to Virginia issues.
Thank you.
Mm. All right, so Mary, I can check research explores natural extension services. Absolutely. So, Mary, I'm not going to read. The question is, the research explores how women farmers in coastal Virginia experience and respond to climate change and evaluates the role of extension services and their adaptive capacity. That is absolutely eligible. Coastal economies fits into our resilience area. Again, I would just really push the Sea Grant goals as you're writing your methodology and your abstract and everything, your narrative. Just trying to continually relate back to how this relates to our strategic plan and the work that Sea Grant's doing. Because when it gets to panel, that's going to be when they have to rank all these different projects and figure out which ones are the most relevant and the most meaningful for Sea Grant to fund. So I do think it will be eligible. I would really play up the extension portion because we're extension based. And then also maybe have like a land grant mentor or input to the project. So we often work together. So that would be a good way to kind of tie it in. Talk more about the ability to mentor in undergrad. Okay, so Jessica, you were asking about the ability to mentor in undergrad. What we do is, especially for those who have field work, although it can be computer work as well, um, we offer the option to have we pay an undergraduate intern for the summer, or we're doing a couple in the fall this year too, so it doesn't specifically have to be summer. And they just come on and it's an extra pair of hands for you guys. They're working on the project in a way that's going to help you get your project completed. And then they're also hopefully learning what it's like to work in a graduate research lab and figure out if graduate school's for them, or maybe it's not really what they're thinking of. So um, we think of it as a near peer mentor system because they're obviously not the same age or the same level as you guys, but it's closer than one of us stepping in. So they really enjoy getting to work in the labs and getting to know the graduate students and being introduced to the different projects that are going on. And that is completely optional. We have maybe 3 positions a year open up. Um, and like I said, a lot of them tend to go with projects that have heavy field work in the summer. Um, so the question about the mentor, I'm curious about the mentor. Does it have to be someone at Tech, or could it be a professor from another university? I would actually suggest it not be somebody from Tech. Specifically, it shouldn't be somebody from your department. If it is somebody from Tech, it should be somebody, again, with a completely different perspective. Ideally, it would be somebody from an NGO or professional industry or another academic institution or a center, depending on what your project is. The most important part is that it does not recreate the perspective that your advisor should already be giving to the project. So if you are a data science PhD and your advisor is clearly in data science, we don't want your mentor being in data science unless they're from the private sector and are going to bring that kind of business aspect to it. We want maybe somebody from the life sciences side as your mentor, or somebody from um, industry or something like that, somebody who's going to give you a different layer to your project. Did that answer your question? Mhm. All right. I'm going to reiterate, I had said this in the beginning, but in case you didn't hear it, make sure you are in touch with your sponsored programs office. Make sure you know what their deadlines are. They do have to approve your budget and narrative and sign your title page. And that is going to take them anywhere from 3 to 10 days, depending what university you're at. And with the Christmas break, you don't want to just assume, oh, I've got plenty of time and then have them all be on vacation. Um, so just make sure you're in touch with them. Make sure you are hitting those deadlines, and then make sure your mentors and advisors know the deadlines for their portions to be submitted. Like a reference letter, they're going to send those in themselves. So keep an eye on them. For your mentor and your advisor, make sure you're sending them along the RFP, and having some take some time to talk to them about who you are, if it's someone you haven't seen in a little while. If you're brand new to the school and you've just met your advisor, maybe schedule a coffee date and sit down and be like, hey, I want to tell you about some times I overcame challenges and had some really cool leadership experience so that you can go write about it. Um, feed them information, let them write good stories about you. Um, and that goes for any letter of reference, not just ones for Virginia Sea Grant. Make sure your letter writers or the people that are doing your references know what you need them to say. They will appreciate it. Does anybody else have questions? I got this question via email this morning, so I'm going to address it. Can the funding be used to pay mentor or advisor salaries? The answer is no. It cannot be. It has to be used for your stipend, tuition, travel, PD, but it has to be yours. What can happen with the salaries of those persons, if they are not federally funded, they can be used as match. So, seeing as we have a little time and there aren't questions, I'm going to just flip through match really quick for those of you who are unfamiliar with it. Every dollar of Sea Grant money given to you would require 50 cents of match, and it has to be non-federal. A lot of this, especially for fellowships, is going to be covered by waived F&A or IDC costs. And that is because the universities will waive the facilities costs on fellowship payments. So that gets to count as match. If you need to fill up other match, sometimes advisor or mentor time can be used. Um, if you have specific questions about that, I would suggest the first person would be your advisor to reach out to, because most of them are probably very familiar with writing grants, and most grants have a match requirement. If they have further questions, either your Office of Sponsored Programs or you can reach out to me and we can get into it on a little bit more detail. Does anyone have any other questions? All right, then I will round up with just this statement of keep in mind that Sea Grant looks for research that is actionable. So as you're sitting and writing your project description, ask yourself the question, why does this matter? And not to my PhD advisor or to someone else in my field, what does it matter to the stakeholders that I'm doing it for or the community it affects? What changes if I do this research? And be able to explain that in common terms, especially if you get to the interview portions. Be able to explain your research and why it matters to Virginia and the communities therein. And that would be my last kind of piece of advice for you guys. If you have any other questions, please feel free. I'll stick around. Throw your hand up or write them in the chat or just yell out. Otherwise, if you think of them as you put your applications together, go ahead and email me. Um,
Thanks so much.
I'm going to throw that back in the chat. And good luck to all of you.
Thank you.
Have a good one, everybody.